In this video, I'm going to share 5 ways you can use social proof in your email marketing to dramatically increase your sales and to just get people to like your brand more than they already do. So if you've never heard of the term social proof, it's very common in the marketing world. It was actually coined by a guy named Robert Cialdini in what I would consider one of the greatest books written about marketing of all time. And that was a book called Influence. So if you've never read it, I highly recommend reading it. He has an entire chapter dedicated to social proof. And he, lays out all this, behavioral, psychological research on why humans behave, or why we are prone to just copying the behavior of others. So the term social proof just really means that people are more likely to think and do things that a lot of people have already think or done. Meaning that if you see 2 restaurants and one restaurant is completely packed and one restaurant is empty, obviously you're going to want to go to the one that's packed, even though it's going to be more inconvenient for you, because you're just assuming that if so many people are there and if other people are willing to wait, that food must be so much better than this other place. In fact, you see this all the time. Anytime you see Chick-fil-A next to McDonald's and Arby's or whatever else, you'll see Chick-fil-A with a line of cars out, going out into the street, and then no one's even in the drive-thru for the other places. Most people would tell you, or I think it's generally accepted, that Chick-fil-A is just way better, right? The customer experience is way better, the food is better, and all of that. So you want to use this to your advantage. And what's awesome is that email is a great way to not only use social proof, but also to generate that social proof in the first place, because you might be in a position with your business where you don't really have a lot of social proof you can leverage, and you need to actually create some social proof that you can then use. So that's what I want to share with you here. So there's 5 ways you can use social proof. The first thing is to use email flows to generate reviews. So some of your customers are going to be awesome where they get the product, they like it, and they're just going to go leave a review. But most people won't do that unless you ask them. And you would be surprised that just by simply asking for a review, how many people will actually do that. But they just didn't think to do it until you asked. So that's why you want to have some email flows set up to automatically target people who have already purchased and ask them to go back to the site and leave a review of the product. And you want to do this in a way where you've got dynamic links where it's taking them right back to the exact product they purchased. You don't want to make this difficult for people or they're just not going to do it. So then once you start generating reviews, now you can start taking those reviews and putting them in your emails. And I really recommend especially putting these in a lot of the email flows, especially the abandonment flows. So your browse abandonment, abandoned cart, abandoned checkout. These are all flows that are targeting people who are very interested in buying because they've already started the process of purchasing the product, but they just haven't finished it. And a lot of times a good positive review is all it takes to give someone that nudge to just go ahead and complete their purchase. So I like to use reviews in abandonment flows especially. Now the second thing you can do is very similar to this. You can use email flows to generate UGC. So you can do this in a couple of ways. So for one, if you're using a good reviews app on Shopify or whatever for your website, you can have it set up where people are encouraged to add photos or add videos to their review. So in addition to whatever they write out, they're actually adding a photo. And so that photo is UGC, which just means user generated content. You can also use email flows to encourage people to share UGC on their social media and to tag you whenever they do so. And in that way, you can reshare that content either in your stories or on your posts. But especially you want to save that UGC that they put out there so that way you can then add it to emails in the future. And this is something where we like to use these a lot in email campaigns. Of course, they're great to use in flows as well. But if you get to a point where you're getting this steady stream of UGC coming in all the time, then you can continue to repurpose those into ongoing email campaigns. So that way people who are on your list, who are getting your campaigns over time, are continually seeing more and more people that are similar to them using and enjoying your products. And this UGC goes a long way because just like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So it's one thing when someone writes out a review, but we also all know as customers that reviews are easier to fake. It's harder to get real customers, real people to actually use your products and take photos and actually be genuinely enjoying the product in the photo and to share that online. So this is very valuable to use in your email marketing and everywhere else. Now, the third thing you can do is create a media banner that you can add to some of your email templates that highlights the different places where your brand or your products have been featured, especially if they've been featured in any kind of like big mainstream media outlets, or if they've been been featured by, any podcasts or blogs or anything that people in your particular market really care about. A lot of times those are actually going to be way more influential than, being featured in Forbes and Business Insider and all that. Doesn't, but surprisingly, carry as much weight as being featured by a very prominent blogger or, podcaster in a particular space, because people just have a much stronger emotional connection to those people and their brands than they do with the major, legacy media outlets. Also, a lot of people just know that a lot of what happens with those big media brands is just manufactured anyway. It's not truly organic. And most of these brands are just buying their way into those media features. Not all consumers know that, but I think that it's generally understood by a lot of people. Along those same lines, by the way, if you have any awards for your programs, you can create banners for those as well. But again, it's the same thing. Most of these awards are just not. They're just like some company, pitches you on paying to be awarded for this fake award. So, it's kind of hit or miss. I wouldn't really go that route unless you are just genuinely getting real awards that actually mean something. Okay, now the fourth thing is if people start to talk about your products on social media or podcasts on their own, not because you've, asked them to or anything. This is awesome because now you can share their story. You can either create an email kind of sharing their story, or you can create a blog post. You can, take that and repurpose it into content for your business. But what you can even take this even further is actually reach out to them and maybe even invite them to share their story. So if your product has had a big impact for them, they genuinely appreciate it, they might actually want to share their story with your audience, because for one, it's just kind of goodwill between the two of you, but also that gives them an opportunity to have access to your audience for them to get their message out there for whatever they're doing. So this can be a great win-win for you to have, and it's something that's really fun for everyone. It's fun for your audience, it's fun for that influencer and their audience, and of course you benefit as the business as well. And also you really want to focus on the story component, really telling that story and taking it beyond a review and like really looking at, okay, what was their life like before they had the product, and what is their life like now after they've been using the product. Now, finally, the fifth thing here is if any big influencers, as I've mentioned before, have talked about your products, you definitely want to show that off to your audience. And you see this all the time where, for example, Joe Rogan, he always has different guests on there, always talking about different products that they're using. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with him being sponsored by them or having any kind of business relationship with them at all. He just, it just genuinely comes up in conversation, and that is amazing for those brands because now they can show that clip of Joe Rogan talking about it, and they can, it's social proof without having to pay the enormous amount of money that it would cost to actually be a sponsor of Joe Rogan's podcast. So, and again, you don't have to have influencers as big as Joe Rogan talking about your products. This could be, the cool thing about influencers is that people in particular hobbies or interests or whatever, they are more influenced by the key figures in their space than they are by celebrities at this point. And so an influencer who maybe has a small following, but has a very strong relationship with their audience can have more sway with your customers than a big celebrity. And this is also a great opportunity to form a business relationship, because sometimes these influencers, it could be a chance for you to sponsor their podcast or their videos, or it could be a chance to create an affiliate relationship with them where they're getting a commission for promoting your products. Because if they already are promoting your product for free, they would very likely be interested in promoting your product and getting a fee or getting a commission for every time they do that. So, and this can be, again, a great thing because you now have these people associated with your brand, which creates social proof, and you're able to reach more customers outside of what you're doing for marketing and sales. So these are 5 things that over time, some of this stuff is not going to happen right up front, but these are things that you want to infuse into your email marketing, and it's going to add social proof. It's going to be way easier to get more sales, and it's just going to make your brand way more likable to the people that you are selling to.